nervous system level. So you're getting all three levels at the same time.
Hi, this is Rubal.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
For me, the word is, thank you, Shauna, for that. For me, the word is uncertainty. And uncertainty is the mind's reflection of saying, I don't know how to handle this. With what I have recognized in my life when I went through absolute uncertainty is that when you reach a point when the uncertainty is so complex, and then your mind recognizes that it cannot handle anymore, you start to feel peace. That is the weirdest thing that I experienced in my life, that in total uncertainty, you will see total peace. Only thing that you need to do is just let go and allow universe, God, to handle that. So that is the the abstract idea of it. From a tangible standpoint, one thing that you could do is like have a daily power ceremony, what I call as power ceremony. You wake up, make sure that your phone is on airplane mode. That's why some of the friends here, they text me or call me, you don't get me until like 9 a.m. Because what happens is when I go to sleep or when I wake up, it's immediately going to airplane mode. My phone is going for a flight ride when Delta is completely grounded. And then I finish my morning power ceremony and make sure that I am aligned and ready to take the uncertainty before taking any text. That's my tip.
Awesome. I love that one. I love uncertainty and how it pushes you to think outside your box a little bit, to really, for me, for digging down, uncertainty forces me to put my roots even deeper into the ground. And that makes me feel more grounded and more stable, because now I'm forced to ground myself or I'll fly off like a kite. I love that. I love the uncertainty. Cool.
Thank you.
Hi there. I can go next if you want. So I think the biggest challenge. Hi, I'm Anand. My name is Anand.
Hi, Anand.
Hello. Hang on, my computer's gone to sleep. 1 second, sorry. So I think the biggest challenge at the moment, one of the biggest challenges is thought forms, or more simply put, getting caught in stories that are not ours, and being able to return to ourselves. And so a simple strategy for that is to notice if you get caught up in fear or concern, that if you just look around the room that you're in right now, there's really not a lot going on. And therefore to bring your attention to something pleasant in the room, something nice that you can look at. And this is from Rick Hansen. He says that if you rest your eyes on something pleasant that you can see right now in the room for 10 to 15 seconds, it will change your state, it'll alter your state, and it will pull you out of that story. And this comes from sort of trauma resolution, going between thoughts and things that catch us and coming back to the present moment. And just pendulating, going between those two, what you'll find is the thought forms start to dissipate and disappear. It lets you realize the difference between the story and what's actually happening in the moment.
That's fun. I love that. I use my environment a lot. I planted tulips and daffodils in the middle of my grass in places where I can see them. So, because I want, when I pass a window, to have something that brightens me up, that opens me up. And so I like little surprises everywhere of beauty, so that I never, get lost or hijacked or locked in my own head, because, oh, look, here's a candle. Oh, look, here's, a stone or a drum. And it brings me back to a bigger version of myself. I love that idea of finding something that's beautiful to pull you out of the story. What a graceful way to do it. What a lovely way to do it. Thank you. That's a great tip.
Hey, Rita.
Yeah.
This is Mohammed. So for me, I think it's along the lines that Anand and Rubal talked about. I think the biggest problem right now that I see is the fear that is going on around coronavirus and in general because of uncertainty. There's so much fear. There's so much fear of the unknown that people just don't know how or what's going to happen. You know, a very quick story here about a study that I read from FBI negotiators. They found out that when there's a hostage situation and you have the person that kidnapped the hostage and you have the hostage, the funny part is the person that the kidnapper was going through as much traumatic stress as the hostage themselves. And then this is a little bit counterintuitive because you think, why would they be feeling so much stress and traumatic stress? It was simply because what they found out, the researchers, simply because they couldn't know with certainty what's going to happen for them. There's so much fear and they want to get the situation to end. It's like, well, I want my money now. Just, I wish I could end the situation right now because I have nothing certain from this situation coming back to me. And my tip for that is, you know, everything that I do every day is structured around creating certainty. Certainty in your mind, so physical certainty, emotional certainty, psychological certainty. That to me is the antidote to fear. You know, fear is something that can take over your life if you just go and play with it and let it happen in your mind. And I think, you know, probably your second question I can elaborate on how I can, you know, I usually go and deal with that. But to me, I think the number one tip is focus on finding your stake in the ground, whether for you it's your, you know, emotion of certainty, whether it's logical certainty, or whether it's physical certainty. Find that stake in the ground and make sure that you focus on it every single day and relate to it and live it.
It's similar to doing a vision board, which I've never been a big fan of, although I should be, you'd think. I think I just never liked how it was always unfolded. But it's the things, you know, I like to anchor myself in all parts of my environment with things that remind me of who I am and what I believe and where I'm going and the higher version of myself. So I very consciously and mindfully create my environments around me because one, I'm actually a high-strung person who, you know, through doing my own work, I'm able to keep it a really nice, calm, Zen space. But I do it because I put things around me that are my stake in the ground. This is what I believe. This is who I am. This is where I want to go. And when you have these things around you, it lets you remember on a deep unconscious level and keep you on that path of that growth mindset where you're able to manage your stress because you know there's something much, much bigger going on. One of my favorite phrases is make your home in the breathing unity. It's not my phrase, but it is such a visual of how we need to make our home in this breathing unity of this community of all that is. Just really great stuff. These are awesome, guys. Thanks. All right, who's next?
Rita.
Hi.
Hey, it's Arvind. A couple of things actually that come to my consciousness is one is the sense of overwhelm. Constantly there is this updating of, you know, so many thousand people have died, so many new cases, and you know, it keeps on. People, I talked to at least a few people today in at work, and that's all they said. They said, how can we avoid this? It's just a sense of overwhelm that it'll be me soon kind of thing. That's what it's leading up to, and and the other thing is the change that's coming with it. Everybody, you know, most people resist change, and so that's happening because they notice that, like, the hospital I work in has now become very quiet because no visitors allowed. So there's hardly anybody in the hallways, and things have changed so much in the last 10 days, and so there's a big change, and I think people are struggling with it because they're forced to change and adapt, which they really wouldn't want to do on their own. So my thing is that just stepping back and saying, you know what, if you suddenly start, you know, don't turn the numbers on. People have the computers on, and on one side, like the two monitors, one side of the labs, and the other side is this thing about the countdown. how many cases, new cases. You know, they got this running in the background. So I said, why do you do this? There's no reason to do this. I mean, all it does is it generates more and more fear in you. And, you know, so I still want to talk to them. But I think the big thing that I would say is just step back from all these things. Do not look at the numbers every day. It's not going to, it's only generates more fear, and realize that there's, you know, you don't know the full story. You're only getting bits and pieces of it. And so that's how I try to counsel the people I run into, to just step back and, you know, look at the big picture, and you know, distract yourself, do other things that are more meaningful. Like one of the others said, that, you know, look at good pictures and things like that, to distract yourself in positivity. Those are the two things that come to me.
You know, that's just really great advice, and I appreciate it coming from you. You know, because you're in the trenches of all of this. You're in the middle of it, and seeing it firsthand in many ways. And so, I mean, we have to remember that, you know, like that phrase, make your home in the breathing unity. We are part of something so much bigger than ourselves. We're part of something that's alive. And when we can remember it's not all about us, you know, when we're focused on how does this affect me? How does it hurt me? You know, even some very spiritual people that I know, they had a hard time grasping the concept that this was so much bigger than them, that they couldn't control this, that this was not, you know, under their power to magically have it all go away. And they were thinking about, how does this affect me? I can't go out to eat. How, you know, it was all about me, which is normal. But if that's our focus, we're going to feel overwhelmed and broken and worn out, because we're missing the peace that comes when you look at that big picture. You know, when you're looking at the sunset and you see the whole horizon, you remember, this is what we're here for this moment right here. I had a mentor who would say, winning the lottery is better odds than all of us being here right now. We've got 19 people on this call. Do you know everything that people had to go through to be here tonight, right now, doing this? It's astronomical thinking about the odds. It's a miracle. And so we need to focus in and tune in to the miraculousness. And by doing that, it will help us all manage our own anxiety, plus this planetary anxiety. Listen to that. Planetary anxiety. The whole planet is stressed out. Of course, you're stressed out too. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
If I may say one more thing.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you that don't assume that because somebody specializes in something that they're immune. I'll tell you, I'm going to be very brief. I was in the New Orleans area, and right next to me was in the physician's lounge was an infectious disease specialist. He practiced for 35 years, so, you know, he knew diseases. This is when the Ebola virus struck, and there were 3 cases in Dallas at the hospital there. And I heard him on the phone tell his sister, don't go visit mom in Dallas. There are 3 Ebola cases there. I don't want you going there. You know, I'm just saying that this is a guy, an ID expert, infectious disease expert. That's all he does in his, in his practice. And he was giving this advice of fear to his sister. The chances of catching Ebola virus were, minuscule. But that's the advice he gave. And she was going to go visit her mother, who she hadn't seen in a few months.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I heard this conversation and I asked him, hey, he said, hey, look, I don't know, you know, and he was absolutely afraid. I could see the fear in his eyes. This is a guy who knew all the odds, but he still gave the advice.
Wow.
So
it's easy. It's so easy. Yeah, it's so easy to get into that mindset. Okay, the floor is open. Anyone else have something to add to this first question? One word that you think is one of the biggest,
hi, Rita.
is the biggest problem. Hey, hi, Jenny. How wonderful to see you.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you bet.
For sure, my word is unease. And it's pretty much nonstop. So what I've noticed is when this all started back on March the 12th here in Toronto, in Canada, I was definitely feeling the unease, and I just like that gave up my morning routine and got out of bed and was reading on my phone all this news, thinking, oh, I have to keep on top of it. So what I have done now is turn that. I do want to be informed, but instead of getting out of bed and reading, I'm back doing my morning routine. And then at noon, I let myself look at the news and read the headlines, so that at least my morning starts off calm, and I'm able to be productive.
Yes, that's really smart, because you put good boundaries for yourself. People get confused about boundaries a lot. And one of the ways I like to explain it is it's a rule you make for yourself to protect yourself. It's not about changing anybody else. It's not about fixing anything. It's saying, I am not willing to live in a state of fear, and so I am going to do something different. You know, that's a good boundary. And I'm just so proud of you. That's awesome, because it's hard to put those things on ourselves and say, I'm not going to walk there. I don't need to, and I'm not going to. And even though everybody's telling me and everything's telling me to run, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to grow my flowers, and I'm going to eat my cookie, and I'm going to breathe in and breathe out. You know, do you remember those research projects where they had people in, I think it was in New York, meditate, and they had, you know, giant groups meditating, and the chief of police was against the whole thing, but the crime rate went down to such a degree that they had to buy in, because there was no rational explanation for the crime rate going down, because something like 10,000 people came and meditated together, you know, and created that open space for people to be in. So, you know, you choosing to be in a good space helps everybody. And even though when you're empathic, you get pulled in all these directions by people who are like, ah! You know, and there's a certain degree that's true about that. Yes, we should be aware, but not buying into that panic is so hard. Nice job.
Well, it just means that I show up for my clients grounded and calm, so that I can support them.
Yeah, I love it.
It's made a difference.
I hear ya. So Sonia, who's part of the group, but she can't do video right now, her word is expectation. And that's allowing ourselves the space to change our expectations as needed, so we can give ourselves space. So you give yourself space, give yourself permission, allow the flow to be. So it's expectation, and to put down some of these expectations and just allow reality to be the way that it is. You know, there's reality and there's fantasy, and people are afraid of reality many times because they think reality is something that's bad. But when you look at reality clearly, now you can problem solve around it. You can do something about it. Whereas if you stay in the fantasy world of why aren't things the way that I want them to be, then you stay stuck, because there's nothing you can do, because you just keep looping around in that same thought. But when you embrace the idea that you are exactly where you are, it's not just a fluffy bunny, you know, sort of thought. It's a thought with depth. And when you are okay with where you are right now, you get more of being okay with where you are right now. It grows. Alan Watts, one of my favorite philosophers, 1960s, he was a drunk that lived on a houseboat and debauchery and everything else, but great, great spiritual philosopher. And he would talk about love anything. Could be love a piece of chocolate, love you know, a bunny, love your tree, but love anything, because that gets that flow of energy going, that love going. And the more you do it, the more it grows and the more you get of it, just because that's where your focus is. Just so cool. I love having you on, Ginny. Thank you so much. You're so fun. Okay, the floor is open. Anyone else for this question?
Hi, Rita. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hey, nice to see you here.
Thanks. It's good to be here. I've been having a little bit internet issues lately. So, and if you guys see the setup that I have right now in the basement, and I'm like all covered up in my blanket because it's cold, but you know what? We adapt, right? And that's probably
Right.
the word that I would use. It's adaptation. Things will change.
Mhm.
I mean, at the beginning of this pandemic, when it first started becoming real here in Canada, I kind of created a video to talk about that, and the message that you know I believe in is that change is inevitable, but growth is a choice. And so whether we choose to change or change sometimes just happens, you know, things happen, events happen, and we choose to just stay put and just dwell on our emotions, then you know we won't and we won't move, we won't learn from it, we won't be able to come up and emerge from it as our best selves. So since the beginning of this is exactly what I've been doing. I've been adapting. I've been setting new goals for me. So one of them was also just to start a practice with my husband and I, because he's working also here. We came back from Mexico 4 days. So now we're in 14 days quarantine, basically, self-isolation. So thank God we're all feeling good until now. So we're crossing our fingers. But we've been putting a lot of practice in place, just like meditation every morning together. We've been connecting more with the kids as well, because they're home. Focusing, as you know, a lot of the other shares, earlier shares, they said, like, focus on other things that you care about and you want to learn. So for me, it was headstands. You know, I have a goal for, you know, do my first headstands in 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. I've been practicing it every day. But moving with the change, so instead of fighting it. But there was also a very important thing that I wanted to mention, is that as human beings, we do have different coping mechanisms and styles, right? So some of us will try and fight fear and trying to just, you know, push it away and not like, and maybe find someone to blame. Why did this happen, or all that? And we see it all the time. You know, every time I look at the Facebook feeds or whatever, it's like, oh my God, like you see all these different comments. And I guess part of it is, part of this change is something that we can't control. It's the pandemic. But there's another part, which is us, and it's how we are also connecting with each other. So having that empathy and knowing that some people will fight, some people will try and hide and just like, you know, not engage in any conversations or anything, and others will possibly just freeze and not know what to do with these emotions. And probably as coaches, if you know we're aware of that, but you know majority of the world doesn't, and you start listening to a lot of the blaming and a lot of the name calling and all that, and that also adds another layer of stress and another layer of anxiety in people's lives. I mean, since I came back, I've been getting a lot of calls from families, friends, and whatever, and it's all about that. They're like, I'm trying to protect myself, I'm trying to protect my family, I'm trying to deal with all of this, but then I have to deal with everybody else's, you know, sending me all these messages or all these like opinions and all that. And I always tell them, you know, empathy, you know, they're coming, it's real for them. So you don't need to take it, but just realize that it's there and it's real for them. And if you can just hold that space for them without taking it on you, then that would be the least that you can do. So that's what I just wanted to add.
I love that adaptability. You know, I remember we went through a recession here in the U.S. a number of years ago. The whole housing bubble popped, but a lot of people were unemployed. They were laid off, and to a large amount, you know, of people, everybody knew somebody. But what happened is because they slowed down, they got closer to their families. They realized that they'd been working too hard, that they'd been missing out on life. They'd been missing the things that make life meaningful. And there was a real shift in consciousness when that happened. You know, it could be looked at as in this is terrifying, or it could be looked at, wow, look at these beautiful roots that are growing and these community. I mean, this community like here, you know, 3 months ago, we wouldn't have gotten 18 people on here, but here we are loving on each other and caring about each other and lifting each other up. And that's really cool. You know, so that's one of the beautiful side effects of all this, is that we're coming together as a world community, and we're being motivated and inspired to reach out and make that happen, instead of, you know, go the easy route of, oh, it's not my problem. So I love that. I just love that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's happening on so many different industries, right? So even my husband, even though he's in self-isolation right now, he's a physician, he's a pediatrician, intensivist. So, and he's like feeling, you know, this is not convenient. I need to be at the hospital. I need to be there, but he needs to do what he needs to do. It's his responsibility. You know, we came back and we need to go through the 14-day of quarantine. But the collaboration that's happening among physicians around the world and in Ontario and all that is just phenomenal. You know, he's on with them on calls constantly throughout the day, and they're just, you know, strategizing. They're putting, you know, efforts to see how can they handle things and all that. So, and he was fascinated by it. He's like, this had never happened before, you know, where people are just like, they all came together from around the world, and there's one pot that they're all sharing, and they're all kind of sharing their experiences. People in London, people in, you know, Italy, people in whatever. So it's amazing. So yeah, and I'm grateful that I can see this, you know, because he's at the front line and I can see this collaboration. It gives me a little bit that peace of mind that, yeah, you know, there are people who are working on this, and no matter what it is, people, like, as human beings, we will adapt. It's gonna pass, and it's yeah, it gives me peace of mind.
That's a great piece of information. Thank you. It gives me a piece of calm too. I really appreciate that.
Hey, Rita,
Yeah.
can you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. The question was, dun, 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 dun. In one word, what do you see as the biggest problem now when it comes to coping with stress? And what is your best tip for coping with that?
And you said 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, give yourself 3 to 5 minutes.
One word, huh?
Hence, it was meant to make you kind of dive down a little bit into it.
Trying to unmute myself.
You are unmuted.
I just did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm timing out 3 minutes. I've already used up one. I've already used up 22 seconds.
So you're that one in the group, are you? Okay. Go right ahead. This will be fun.
Listen. a client said to me, it feels like my whole world is falling out from under me. So I said, what if you were to just let it fall? That was 2 minutes. That's all I need.
That was awesome. Thank you. That was awesome. All right, the floor is open. All right, so I'll put in my 2 cents. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert. I specialize in working with women who are in narcissistic and toxic relationships. I've been doing it for about 12 years. And because I came from childhood trauma, I spent most of my life trying to figure out how to manage my stress around that and deal with the complex PTSD and all those dynamics. And the one tool that really helps me manage in any sort of reactionary situation, whether it's grief or anger or fear or anxiety or any sort of overwhelm, because you know you can't stop yourself from reacting. It just happens. You're just going to trigger. But when you can get all of your brains online, because you have brain cells in your brain, you have brain cells in your heart, and you have brain cells in your gut, and they are meant to be talking to each other. They're linked. And so I like to do an exercise fairly regularly, especially if I'm triggering around something. Let's say I'm sobbing uncontrollably, you know, which I can. I'll go, I'm connecting my head brain with my heart brain with my gut brain. And I'll do it like 3 to 5 times. I'm connecting my head brain with my heart brain with my gut brain. And what it does is it tells your nervous system and it tells your body to kind of come online, because your heart is a beautiful radio tower that sends and receives transmissions. And we can feel the transmissions from someone's heart 5-6 feet away from them, even bigger if they've got a really beautiful vibe and beautiful energy. And we can feel other people's from that distance or further, you know, as well. And so our heart has so much information in it, and our gut has so much information in it, but typically we're running from our head. And our head knows that it's not possible for us to do the things we're asking it to do, to breathe and live and have relationships and be nice to people. And, you know, it knows it's not capable of doing it by itself, but because it's not connected with your heart and your gut, it thinks that it's all alone, that it's abandoned, and we get these feelings of abandonment. But when we can get our intuition in our gut, all those beautiful bacteria, they all have consciousnesses, they all have an awareness, they know things. You know, you want that information, and you want the information from your heart and what you're getting from your environment. And you want the information from your head that kind of helps put it all together, or put it into a pattern that we can see. They're designed to work together. And because of our lifestyle, and because nobody ever taught you, you didn't realize you had 3+ brains. You know, these are the 3 main ones. So if you can take time, either as a regular practice every morning, or when you're in the middle of some sort of overwhelm, I'm connecting my head brain with my heart brain with my gut brain. I'm connecting my head brain with my heart brain with my gut brain. When you're able to do that, you start to see things from a more expanded point of view. You are able to see it from that eagle's perspective because your nervous system isn't being hijacked. You're able to get out of your amygdala and back into your frontal lobe. You're able to remember who you are and what you're doing here. You start to remember to connect and look at the beautiful things in life, and that you're okay and everything's going to be fine. Because if you abandon your brain, your head brain, it's going to freak out. But if you remind it and reconnect it to your heart brain and to your gut brain, now you have all of these other resources online that you didn't have before. The second quick tip that I do is I like to put my hands together. You know, it's that moment of prayer, that moment of feeling, and put them up against my heart. And when I do that, I let myself think of something that makes me feel loving kindness or compassion or joy. I personally like to think about kittens. I don't know what it is about kittens, but thinking about a kitten makes me happy. And so when we do this and we anchor ourselves into a beautiful feeling, beautiful mindset, kittens or puppies or somebody you love or the stars or anything that gives you that sense of loving kindness and compassion and joy. When you make the same movement at least 3 different times with different thoughts, different things that triggered it, it becomes anchored into your nervous system. And with it anchored into your nervous system, now every time you come up and do this, that feeling of goodness, that love you'll be reminded of that love. It's just like using the smudge I was talking about earlier, the sage and the sweetgrass. It triggers you in the other way. So instead of being triggered and hijacked into overwhelm and anxiety, if you get a practice of anchoring some of these good feelings into your body, you just need to recreate the movement. That's all you need to do. You just need to recreate the movement. And it helps remind you and bring you back, just like the looking at something beautiful, brings you back out of that story of fear and into that much bigger, more beautiful perspective that we're trying to reach for, that we're trying to go for. So those 2 tools, this one comes from many, many cultural traditions. Almost all cultural traditions have something similar to this. It's just a very natural, intuitive thing. And the head brain, heart brain, and gut brain comes from HeartMath, HeartMath. They're out of California, and I love their work. And they do a lot of work around the body mind and how they work together and how we work on a nervous system intuitive sort of level. So that was my 2 cents.
I think it's, can I speak?
Yeah.
I think it's compelling to consider this novel virus that we have going around. And there seems to be concurrent with that, a certain novel anxiety that sort of matches it. It's like a new anxiety that we're dealing with. It's not like a level of anxiety we, at least in our lifetime, have dealt with before. It's interesting to go back and read about cholera and read about the Spanish flu and smallpox that killed hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, we're so spoiled and so lucky to live where everything we need has been with arm's reach, and suddenly we can't go to the movies, and and so it's new for us, and it's certainly sobering. But I was considering this notion of this, the best way to solve any problem is to really face the truth of what we're dealing with. And the truth of this novel anxiety, as someone who deals with trauma, my own, building a bridge out of my own trauma and the trauma of others, you think about what's going on today. Okay, unstructured time, uncertain future, leadership that we can't trust, that are giving us mixed messages. We're separated in a way that can make us feel abandoned. The world feels unsafe. We're physically isolated, but we feel social. This is sounding a lot like childhood trauma.
Yeah, it does. And that's why we're so familiar with how to manage through this stuff. Most of the people who are on this call, we have that trauma in our past, and we have the familiarity of working with it. This is the same thing. So we're well prepared.
And I think that things are going to go back to maybe a new normal, but I think we have to consider ways, as I was thinking about this being in this program, and I've been a healer for decades now, but I think all coaches are healers, no matter what you're coaching. Think about it. It leads back to healing, love or fear, right? So I think it's important that we consider the part that we need to play right now, but the part that we're going to have to play in the future of the world, whatever it's going to look like. Eben, who's always been a leader to me for 15 years, he's energized by this because he's so capable of so many things, he's rising to the demand. And that's something I think that we're lucky to be in his wake. We're lucky to have a leader like that. And I think it's a place where, and I do believe it all starts with ourselves, that we all have to work on ourselves and really face the truth about what is it like to have a world that's changing. It may be faster than we want it to, or in ways that we don't want it to. I mean, it is a scary time. So,
Yeah, it is. So it's natural that we're all feeling this way.
yeah,
Yep.
so what is there to do? I always say for me, and then I'll let someone else talk. Can I give myself permission to fully live into whatever is opening up inside of me?
Mm.
It's harder to do these days.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And it's
It
more
is.
necessary than ever.
Yeah, I would agree completely.
If we're going to stay as leaders, because, you know, the rule is we go first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what good leadership does. You go first. Cool. Great conversation. So the floor is open. Anybody have something to add to that?
Hi
Yeah.
there.
Hi.
I haven't spoken before.
Somebody else was speaking. I'll let them go.
Yes, and unfortunately, Janae, you're not part of the expert group. I'm sorry about that. That was my sister, by the way. I'm so blessed that she came on to keep me company on this call. She's a beautiful, beautiful healer herself. Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
I think what occurs, well, a couple of things, just following on from what Ken was saying, which is that for those of us that have these tools and techniques to release and clear the stuff that's being activated right now in ourselves, it's an incredible opportunity to do that, I think, because rarely do these things get activated so easily. I mean, you'll know, Rita, about trauma resolution and memory reconsolidation. Things have to be activated before
Yes.
we can kind of work with them and clear them. So
Mhm.
I just want to offer some things to look at, because I see we don't have much time, which is how many people here are familiar with havening process? It's definitely worth looking up. There's a couple of videos on YouTube, and they fall into a category of what's called psychosensory methods. It's a very simple technique. You basically just brush down the outside of your arms.
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
So if people just have a go at that, you'll see how very rapidly calming that is. It releases serotonin, it releases delta waves in the brain. So if we have something that's active for us and we just do that 20 times, just sit quietly and do that, it's amazing how quickly that kind of activation can reduce in our nervous system. I'll mention a couple more, and that'd be really nice, I think, if Shona could lead us. You mentioned about EFT.
Oh, yeah.
EFT is another method. TAT, T-A-T, which Tapas Fleming develops. It's really just doing that, and that calms our nervous systems down incredibly rapidly. Hers is actually uses the fingers, but it's something we can do immediately.
That feels good.
To bring, yeah, exactly, to bring our energy down and calm our nervous systems, activate the parasympathetic system.
Nice.
And then anything that at the virtual coach, Melissa Tears did a demo of anything that you can throw between your hands that creates cross-lateral stimulation, going from the left to the right, to the left, to the right, just balances the hemispheres. So that's like 3 little techniques that you can do. It, of course, brings you present as well, because you have to be here if you're doing this. That's why juggling works as well, because you have to use both sides of your brain. So I'll turn over to Shona. I'll put a couple of links here so people can kind of go and explore that.
That's great.
But over the years, I found some of these methods that bring you to the body are extremely effective and very fast.
Yes, I would agree. Being a body worker, I work primarily through the body with helping people calm their nervous system. And so those are some great tips. Thank you so much. So we do have some EFT experts who are on the call. We've got Shona, and then we've got, who else said that they could do EFT? I think it would be fun to have both, just to see how different the experiences are, because everybody's got their own tools. So let's start with you, Shona. And then who was the other person?
I think Anand mentioned EFT too.
Who did?
Anand.
Oh, Anand did. Okay.
I just mentioned it as part of the list.
Oh, okay. Of options. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, then that's perfect. This lines up perfectly. And would you do some EFT then for us too, Anand? Is that part of your genius?
Yeah, happy to, if there's time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So Shona, go right ahead.
Okay, sure. I love what Anand shared. That's fantastic. And if
Yeah.
anyone's interested in more of that, Donna Eden is a fantastic resource, especially with bilateral movement, energy work. Highly recommend Donna Eden too. She's fabulous. Okay, so if I'm going to do a quick round of tapping. Of course, you can do this for as long as you need to in space, and it's very easy. There are no magic words. It really is about honoring and validating what you're feeling in the moment. And as Anand and Rita have been saying, that releases and clears it and really lightens your nervous system. So I'm going to just pick one point for us to tap. So because there are multiple points, if you know the points, feel free to run through all of them. But just for the sake of this demo, to make it nice, simple, quick, and easy, if you feel your collarbone point, just you'll feel your bone just below your neck. And then if you sort of dip down maybe an inch, 2.5 centimeters, you'll feel a slight hollow or divot in your chest area. And this is the collarbone point. So you can't do EFT or tapping wrong. The only thing I highly recommend is you tap on the specific points, because these are linked to meridians, energy meridians, and they're linked to acupuncture points in the body that are known to, and they've done research, scientific research, and these specific points are known to reduce stress and switch off your fight-flight response. So if you find that point and you just tap, you can tap with as many fingers as you like, just with enough pressure so that you can feel it. You don't want to leave any marks or bruises on your body. And you can breathe. I'm already noticing a shift. If you want to include breathwork breathing, you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So the first step is always to just acknowledge what is, as many of our experts and team have been talking, the very first point is just acknowledging reality. So whatever is up for you, it might be, you can repeat after me or use your own words. So, wow, all the stress. Everywhere I look, there's news.
Everywhere I look, there's news.
Coronavirus here, coronavirus there.
Coronavirus here, coronavirus there.
Just bad news everywhere I look.
Just bad news everywhere I look.
So hard to get away from it.
So hard to get away from it.
It's so hard to put up a boundary and not be a part of the stress.
It's so hard not to put up a boundary and not be part of the stress.
Oh, my mind is telling me I need to be informed.
Oh, my mind is telling me I need to be informed.
My mind keeps telling me I'm not doing enough.
My mind keeps telling me I'm not doing enough.
It keeps telling me I've got to know more.
It keeps telling me I've got to know more.
I've got to check all the updates.
I've got to check all the updates.
I have to be informed.
I have to be informed.
But this other part of me really needs to rest.
This other part of me really needs to rest.
And so I'm just going to acknowledge.
And so I'm just going to acknowledge.
And I'm going to honor all of my feelings.
And I'm going to honor all of my feelings.
All the parts of me that are dismissing and want to run away.
All the parts of me that are dismissing and want to run away.
And all the parts of me that are getting so involved.
And all the parts of me that are getting so involved.
And want to know every detail.
I want to know every detail.
And I'm just going to honor all of these parts of me right now.
And I'm just going to honor all of these parts of me right now.
And take a nice deep breath.
Take a nice deep breath.
And just notice, when I'm doing this with clients, I'll usually you can even do this for yourself. Like before you start tapping, you might rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, just noticing like how stressed am I feeling in the moment. If 10 is like, I'm going to have a panic attack, and 1 is, meh, it's not bothering me at all. And then once you've done this first round of tapping, you can check in with yourself and just see what you notice and if anything has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will do is I'll go in to a second round of tapping. We can do this as many times and really customize this for the person that I'm working with. Because as, who was the beautiful person who was saying, I think one of our beautiful panelists was saying, everyone's triggers are so unique, so you can really customize this. So then the second round of tapping is then, we'll do the second round, which is a little bit more positive and lighter. So everyone up for that?
Well, actually, how about we move to Anand and have, that would be perfect.
Okay.
Is that
great.
okay?
Yeah,
Is that
love
okay,
it.
Shana? Okay, cool.
Fabulous.
Thanks.
Great.
Oh,
Welcome.
good. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right, what was the lead in? Shifting to the positive,
Yes.
bringing the positive.
Shifting.
Oh, this is, you're handing off the torch. I love
I'm
it.
handing off the torch. So the second part is I'm willing to rest and allow my nervous system to rejuvenate.
This is awesome. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
love this.
Okay. I'm also going to go with, sometimes you go back and forth between the negative and positive, because
That's
often
right.
when a lot of methods actually, when you start to integrate dualities rather than preferring one side to another, it creates brain balance as well. So if you guys are up for it, I'm going to use all the points. So just follow along. I know it looks a bit silly. If it looks too strange, just switch your video off. Are you guys up for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So tap on the side of your hand like this. And so even though I have all these feelings,
I have all these feelings,
these emotions, sensations,
sensations,
and thoughts,
and thoughts.
I love, honor, and accept myself anyway.
I love, honor, and accept myself anyways.
These emotions in these times.
These emotions in these times.
My resources and my capabilities.
My resources and my capabilities.
What I need to do in the world.
What I need to do in the world.
And what I don't need to do in the world.
And what I don't need to do in the world.
Letting go of all those things I don't need to do.
Letting go of all those things I don't need to do.
And focusing on those things I do need to do.
And focusing on those things I do need to do.
Those things that I want to do.
Those things I want to do.
Maybe I can't do them right now.
Maybe I can't do them right now.
Maybe I need to do them right now.
Maybe I need to do them right now.
Maybe I want to do them right now.
Maybe I want to do them right now.
Maybe I can just focus on what I can do.
Maybe I can just focus on what I can do.
Take a deep breath. And breathe in and out through your mouth. Okay, so what I find is that when you're doing this for yourself, just going with the words that show up in your nervous system, and feel free to go between positives and negatives. I find that balances things very quickly. Just as
that was beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone from the group have anything else to add? Because we'll start thinking about wrapping up. If you want to put out to everyone who's here, you can put your name and what you specialize in, so that if somebody's looking for you, they can find you. Your contact information, just put it in the chat box.
Hey, Rita, I don't know if we
Hey.
have time to cover the negative scenario planning that I was talking about. It feels a little bit awkward actually to do it now after we've done all the emotional stuff. I'm going back to mental. So I don't know. I feel like it would be a complete change of energy and frequency. So I don't know. It's up to you. I'm happy to wrap it up here too.
So here's the thing that I would suggest, because it's a great tool. Can you give that tool and then give a second tool that lifts people back up? So instead
Absolutely.
of having them just go down, have them go down and then go back up, but like package it in just a few minutes.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna have to be brief about this, but the name is probably throwing it off a little bit. But one thing, especially if you tend to live in your head so much and you tend to think about all the negative things that might happen, that's really how fear and stress happens. if you try to get in touch with your mind and try to listen to yourself, you know, a very simple trick to do that is just imagine that your consciousness is at the corner of the room and you're looking down at yourself and just listening to the thoughts that are going through your head right now. And this is something I do, oddly enough, with people that I coach, and I coach people to help them get in touch with their financial needs. So something that is very concrete, help them get financially independent, start investing in their cash flow assets. And, you know, fear comes very, very, very rapidly when it comes to things like, oh, I'm so stressed about my finances, especially with what's going on right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. What if this happens? What if that happens? 2008 hits, we have a recession. All of these thoughts bubble up, right? So the premise of this tool is very simple, but it's very powerful. And that's why I love it. I talk to clients and say, okay, let's go right now through the worst case scenarios that you have. Let's just put it all down on paper. Let's see what really could happen. And then they might start telling you things that if it were to happen, it would be really the end of the world. And then the premise is that you have them go through it and realize, even if it happens, it's really not the end of the world, that you really have it. You have the ability to cope and the ability to deal with it. You know, very simple thing, I'll give you a few examples, but you know, let's say you want to start a new business and you don't know if it's going to work out or not. So you ask the client, you ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen? Well, you say, well, I don't know if I'll be able to sustain myself financially. I might have to go and live with my mom for a while. It's like, okay, what happens if you go and live with your mom for a while? Well, if I live with my mom, I don't know if I'll have my space. I might, you know, sleep in the garage, but and then you say, can you do that? Well, you say, yeah, I probably can do that. It's not that hard. You know, I can probably weather the storm for a couple of months. And then when you start getting in touch with seeing that all of those negative things that are running in your mind, even if they happen, you can deal with them and you can deal with them effectively. You're essentially planning all of the contingency plans, things that you can do, and those things have to be real. And the way to make them real is that you don't just come up with them and say the words and write them on paper. You have to get in touch with them, visualize them, and see yourself living in that scenario and coming on top of it. See yourself coming victorious. See yourself coming and overcoming that challenge. And if you start doing that enough, this is to me how you build mental toughness, how you build certainty. And trust me, you know, there's a lot of people be like, well, you know, what if you don't know what's going to happen? You just have to be persistent with it. And that's why sometimes I recommend to people, have someone else lead you in that process, because it's very hard sometimes to believe our own answers, and especially if those answers are something that we're coming up with them. Have someone else lead you in that process. Have someone else interview you and offer you those positive things, and then get in touch with them, live them, visualize them, see yourself become triumphant and overcome those challenges. And that, you know, if we all start doing that, I can guarantee you that a lot of our fears that come around, whether it's a virus or economy, whatever it is, we will see that we are more capable, we are more powerful, and we are more triumphant than we'll ever be, because that's really the human race as a whole is very, very resilient. We've been through worse, and we'll get through this again, and we will be triumphant. That's a fact. Sorry, I went on a little bit too much there. But.
No, it was perfect. You know, I felt that way about my taxes this year. You know, I finally decided to get a handle on some of my bookkeeping after 12 years of business, and it was terrifying for me. But going through it, you know, I made a nice profit. I didn't expect to make the profit that I made, but I had to move through the energy of it. I had to do it anyways and find out the truth and reality, and that let me move through it. You know, we use a similar thing when we help women who are overcoming any sort of sexual trauma or violence of some sort. We're able to, on a shallow or on a safe level, re-trigger the emotion, but help them imagine or have a different ending. You know, this time they escape, this time they fight back, this time they stand up for themselves. And when you have the real experience, when you go through it again and you have the real experience of I'm okay. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm really grateful that I had trauma as a kid, because what it did is it forced me to start working on this stuff really early on, which gave me a feeling of security and anchoredness much faster than a lot of other people, because I didn't have a choice. You know, I felt so unstable that I needed to evolve. And so that's what things like this do. They give us the opportunity to encourage us and inspire us to become that higher version of who we want to be. I love it. That's a great, great exercise. Thanks for sharing it. All right. If there's nothing else, then I think it's just about time to wrap up. Did anybody from the audience have any questions? All right. Seeing none, I would like to end this brief, beautiful, amazing, wonderful ceremony. Oh my God, you guys were great. This is awesome.
Rita,
Okay.
is this recorded? Is this
Yeah.
recorded?
Yep, it's recorded and it's
Yeah.
being live streamed. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So it's yes, and another person wanted to know if I was going to be posting on the website. A recording of this will be available for anybody who wants it. The live streams are on my pages, and for the accelerator group, I'll have a link for the recording where people can download it. So
Okay.
great question, Yvonne. I'm so glad you're here. How wonderful.
I'm so sorry I didn't read your email, and I thought this started at 7.
That's okay. Don't worry
Sorry,
about
you
it.
guys. I wanted to be here. I didn't know.
That's
My
okay.
4th Zoom today.
Oh my God. I know, it's overwhelming, isn't it?
School. Yeah, school is
Yeah.
nutty. Okay.
Yvonne's an art teacher. She's just awesome in a local college. Okay, so let's end this with a little bit of a song. This is a Cherokee morning song, and I sang it when my grandmother died around her grave in order to really give it that sacredness about it. And even though it's a Cherokee morning song, it's also meant to remind us of the beauty and the light that's on the other side. We have to go through these experiences and feel them and be present to them. And when we get to the other side, that's when we get the clarity. And so it's good for us to feel, it's good for us to mourn. And this is a beautiful song that helps us move it. So it's pretty simple. And then if you want to sing along, please do. Here we go. When they are home, when they are home, when they are, oh, 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 hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When they are home, when they are home, when they are, oh, oh, hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When they are home, when they are home, when they are, oh, hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When they are home, when they are home, when they are, oh, oh, hey, oh, yeah, And with that, I say good night.
Thank you,
Good
Rita.
night, everybody.
Thanks for organizing this.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Rita.
for
Thank
being
you,
here.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Good night, guys.
Perfect.
Good night.
Perfect.
Stay safe.
Good night.